points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. A hard-fought victory for the hometown Winnipeg Jets tonight, defeating a very game and a very competitive Seattle Kraken squad by a 5-3 margin. The Jets win the both halves of the back-to-back, and depending on the results later on tonight, or that are going on right now in Edmonton, it looks like the Jets can move within 3 points of the final Western Conference playoff spot. I say good evening to David. I say good evening to Ezra. Gentlemen, nice to see you both. This was a game that I wasn't sure what to expect. I mean, the Kraken aren't very good based on their standings. The Jets on the second half of back-to-back. But I was pleasantly surprised with the quality of play in tonight's game and the entertainment level in tonight's game. There have certainly been a lot worse games that we've been subjected to in this Winnipeg Jets season. This game was entertaining in my books.
Yeah, I think it was entertaining. And, before we just get into the analysis of the game, just awesome, the Jets coming in to the dressing room before the game in the Team Canada jerseys, like Josh Morrissey wearing the Jocelyn the Rock jersey, obviously from St. Anne, Manitoba, right? So I just love that. But yeah, I mean, I think it was maybe a little bit closer than some people thought, but it was the second game of a back-to-back. And then obviously, Yanni Gourde's hit, I thought that should have been a major penalty, guys. And obviously, the Jets couldn't take advantage on the power play, but that looked like it was going to, maybe lead to a fight or two. And obviously, it didn't. But yeah, I mean, like, give this Kraken team credit, right? Like, they tie up the game in the third period and it looked like we might go to overtime, but just what an amazing play by Kyle Connor. He starts it off with, his speed, which we've seen so many times, and then just a beautiful feed over to Josh Morrissey, who obviously was inspired by the gold medal win wearing the LaRock jersey, right? So, yeah, huge win for the Jets. They've played a lot of hockey lately, and you can say whatever you want about the Kraken, though. But, it was still, a quick turnaround for the Jets, even though it's at home. So, yeah, full marks for the Jets tonight. First period, wasn't great, obviously, going down a couple of goals. And, I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about Eric Comrie, but, you have to give him, a ton of credit, made some really big saves. And, he hasn't played in a while. So full marks to Eric Comrie. He was really solid tonight.
He was solid. The numbers aren't going to look tremendous because, he gives up the 3 goals, but he made a number of key saves, throughout the course of the game that kept the Jets within striking distance. I have to say, Dave M., the Dominic Toninato goal, the shorthanded goal at the end of the first period, might be one of the most important goals the Jets have scored this year. I mean, I don't usually resort to hyperbole, but going into the first intermission, down 2-1 after scoring a shorthanded goal, rather than being down 2-0 or even worse, considering the Kraken were on the power play, I think just completely changed the tone of the entire game for the final 40 minutes after that goal.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of the Nashville game, and I kind of jokingly said that when I said this is a little bit of Jets rope-a-dope. They allow a team to get a 2-0 lead and think that they're going to take it, and then all of a sudden the Jets have the lead going into the first intermission, and then they have a good middle frame, and that's just what they did here, and obviously that's not the game plan. But you're right, Drew, that was a massive goal and good. I was going to say good on the Jets for being aggressive, but I have to say that Seattle PK, I don't think I've seen a more aggressive penalty kill in the entire NHL than Seattle.
If we go back to the show after the Jets Kraken game, the first one, whenever that was, we said the exact same thing because it's just the most bizarre PK almost in the entire league. You're right.
Yeah, and it's remarkable when it's one thing to watch it on the television, right? But when you're watching it from inside the press box and you're watching and it's remarkable just to see how aggressive they attack the man with the puck, not giving them any time and space to really set up. And the Jets, it looked like it confused the Jets a little bit because I don't think they're used to that attack for not many teams employ it. So it looked like it took a little getting used to, and the Jets used a little bit of aggressiveness, as you said, Drew, on that PK, and Adam Lowry. Nice play by him to feed it over to Toninato. And Toninato, look, I mean, he needed that goal. I mean, he hasn't scored in quite some time. I think they said since the last time they played in Seattle.
He had the game-winning goal then.
That's right. So for him, that was a massive goal. And you're right, for the Jets, it's so much better. I mean, he scores with 12.3 seconds to go in the first period. So you get to go in and you don't feel out of it when you're down by 2 goals, but it's a lot of different feeling, a lot different emotion. You could see it in the way the Jets came out in the second period because they had that jump. And Brendan Dillon's talked about it, and I've mentioned it before, that this team doesn't seem to come out in the first period after a back-to-back. They're a little bit lethargic, but they seem to get their legs. They work that acid out of their system, and then by the second and third, they're better. And that's what we saw, I thought, tonight.
Yeah, I would agree exactly with that. The Jets definitely started off slowly. Let's go goal by goal, as we do here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Jets started slowly with Logan Stanley in the penalty box serving a minor penalty for boarding that he was assessed only a minute 34 into the game.
Boarding.
Yeah, the officiating tonight was it's just like a pendulum. To start the game, it's a very strictly called game, and then as the game progressed, it swung completely the opposite direction. I think it was Jamie Alexiak who tackles Pierre-Luc Dubois and somehow doesn't get called for that. And as you mentioned, the Yanni Gourde, that's 5 in a game to me. That's crystal clear. I mean, I know that Scheifele isn't injured and he's not bleeding, but that shouldn't be the only that shouldn't be the deciding factor. If that was as blatant a boarding penalty as you can get in this league. It was just viciously dangerous, dirty, everything. You saw how upset Scheifele was, and rightfully so, because his head's at a different angle and he might be and it's a completely different situation. He's not popping up so quickly.
Yeah, and on that first goal, I mean, it was just traffic in front, right? Like Vince Dunn, we know he's a good player. He was a guy that, we were talking about possibly being an option for the Jets at the trade deadline last year. So that was kind of just, traffic in front of Eric Comrie. He didn't have a lot of chance there. So I didn't have a lot of problems with that goal.
No, me neither. And so that was the first goal of the game at the 3:21
mark. The only problem, you could have was on the Jets defense, because I know they're killing a penalty, but they abdicated their responsibility in front of Eric Comrie. I mean, they had, I think it was Appleton in front, and there were two Kraken standing in front of Comrie, taking away his eyes, and Josh Morrissey and the other defensemen were nowhere to be found. They'd abdicated their responsibility, and they were not clearing the front of the net. So that was a difficult shot. And as he said, Dunn's got a good shot as well. So that doesn't help. And it was a difficult one for Eric Comrie to try and stop.
Yeah, no question about that. And you saw some holes in the Jets defense, especially on the second goal of the game. Marcus Johansson gets his 6th of the year assist to Alex Wenberg and Jordan Eberle. And I thought for a minute that it might have been Passover, because the Winnipeg Jets defense parted like the Red Sea there, as Johansson is just allowed to stroll in, go around the net, sort of fakes out Mark Scheifele with a fake drop pass, gets a little bit of extra space on him, and then he's just allowed to walk right into a high danger zone, and they're called the high danger zone for a reason. It was a dangerous play that ended up behind Eric Comrie, and the Jets were down 2-0. And I know that at home, I said, oh, here you go again. This Jets team is playing down to the level of the competition. And I would imagine, Dave M., that the same feeling was emanating throughout the arena.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was a better crowd tonight than we saw last night, and I think people were excited to see the Kraken for the very first time. It was a historic night for JT Brown and Everett Fitzhugh, because they were the first ever All Black
broadcasting crew, broadcasting crew. Yeah,
that's right. So that was kind of a historic moment. Nice. They got a nice crowd ovation in the second period. I'm not sure if they showed that. I'm sure they must have shown that on the television, but that was kind of a nice moment. But yeah, you're right, Drew. It was one of those, here you go again. But I mean, it didn't feel, it was a little unusual, because you thought to yourself, where's the team that played Minnesota and beat Minnesota 6-3 last night?
Yeah.
But you also knew that, like, Seattle's a different animal. And not like, there's been a lot of talk today in the media availabilities about manufactured emotion, but the Jets also know how desperate these points are. I think it was Paul Stastny who said, we need these 2 points. We can't we can't not win. We have to come in with wins. And that's what they talked about in the last game about terms of keeping their heads level. So, yeah, I mean, it had kind of a here you go again, but it also kind of didn't, if that makes sense. Because I kind of thought that, well, it felt similar, felt more like the game they were able to come back in versus like a Chicago game that they just didn't have that level to get it to the next level and get back in that game.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you were in the rink, you saw it up close and personal. We talked about the Toninato goal, but let's go a little bit deeper into it. This is, I mean, I know that what I said about it already. It's just a massive goal for the Winnipeg Jets. You have Pierre-Luc Dubois in the box with a high sticking offensive zone, high sticking penalty where he just got a little careless with his stick towards the end of the period. And we already know that the Kraken power play, it can be dangerous. They already scored. They scored in the first period. Instead, it's a beautiful play by Dylan DeMello. And these aren't guys you expect to be on the scoreboard, on the score sheet. DeMello ended up with 2 assists in tonight's game. This is, that's not typical what you get for Dylan DeMello. That's a half a season for Dylan DeMello offensively, 2 assists. But he gets the 2 assists tonight. He starts the play with a beautiful bank pass to Adam Lowry. And then it's Lowry and Toninato in 2-on-1, and a beautiful pass by Adam Lowry, and Toninato makes no mistake in beating Philip Grubauer as he just a gorgeous play to give the Jets some good vibes late in the first period.
Yeah, you're right. It was an absolutely perfect pass. I mean, like even I could have scored there. And yeah, Dylan DeMello starts it off, and he had the 2 assists, but he quietly had a really good defensive game as well, right? Like we know he's going to kill penalties, and he's going to do those, kind of quiet things that don't necessarily show up on the scoreboard, but obviously, he gets the 2 assists tonight. So yeah, that was obviously a huge momentum turner for the Jets. It could have easily gone the other way. And, we've talked about, Toninato not getting, a lot of ice time, and, he gets a little bit more ice time, gets on the score sheet. So, that was huge. And usually when things are going well, guys, you're getting goals, from, not just the superstars, right? So tonight you get a goal from Toninato, you get one from Morrissey. Obviously, Morrissey can chip in offensively, but, he hasn't been, lighting the lamp like Scheifele and Wheeler and Connor have, right? So yeah, that was you can't really, overstate how big that goal was. And, if you watch the replay, and, I didn't, catch this until I watched the replay, but, Jordan Eberle just, falls asleep there. He just lets Lowry get behind him, and he just doesn't react, and he's slow. And it's funny how hockey works, because Jordan Eberle obviously, ties the game up, for the Kraken, right? So Eberle just wanted to throw that in there. He was out there on the power play, and he's one of their top players. But that was just, you can't let that happen. You got to know, who's behind you, and he just lets Adam Lowry, go, and then he can't catch up to Toninato. But yeah, that was a huge goal, and one of the main reasons why the Jets won this game.
Yeah, certainly one of the main reasons why they ended up pulling it off. I would agree with that comment. After 20 minutes, not great. You're down 2-1, but you're feeling a lot better than you were, 13 seconds before the period ended, when it looked like you were going to be down 2-0.
And Riley Sheahan had the chance right before that, and Dennis even mentioned it, on the broadcast. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it was Colin Blackwell who made the pass. But that was I wrote it down. It was a left shoulder save by Eric Comrie, a really good save. And, there were some other good saves, in this game as well. But that one, I mean, if it goes 3-0 into the second period as opposed to 2-1, I mean, even Captain Obvious will tell you that, most likely the Jets don't come back down 3 goals, right? So, shout out to Comrie for that huge save on Sheahan late in the first.
I thought you were about to give a shout out to Captain Obvious. That would have been what I would have enjoyed. Obvious. What's that?
Or Captain Obvious,
or
give
Captain
him a
Obvious,
shout out.
Yeah, either way, both of them. Everybody gets a shout out on this Thursday evening edition of the Illegal Curve post game show. Dubois ties it for the Jets early in the second period, just after the penalty expires at the 1:45 mark. Great shot by Pierre-Luc Dubois, assist to Blake Wheeler. But right before, you talk about Eric Comrie, you talk about some of his big saves. Right before the penalty expired, he made another key save that prevented the Kraken from retaking their 2-goal lead. Instead, the puck eventually transitions up the ice. Dubois is out of the box, and it's a great shot. You probably don't love it if you're Philip Grubauer. You probably expect to make that save because it was sort of off a bad angle, and it didn't appear like it was going to be a very dangerous opportunity. But the Jets will take it. Dubois will take it, his 21st of the year, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of those ones that caught us a little bit by surprise. I mean, you're expecting him to do something, but I thought Grubauer, I don't know if it was just, I mean, I didn't see, on the, sometimes we'll explain it more in depth on the replay. You guys get to watch it when you're watching on television versus in the arena, but I wasn't certain if there was a tip or not, but it was a nice shot. I just was surprised it beat him. But, that early in the second period is such a, with the Jets feeling good, late first period goal, early second period goal. And you felt the emotions in the building kind of change, and the fans who were already kind of up in arms a little bit, they were not happy with the officiating, to put it mildly, or to be polite about it. So you kind of felt like it was like a release valve when they got that second goal, tied the game, and you kind of felt the momentum shifting a little bit in favor of the Jets. Kraken still had their chances. Eric Comrie still had to make some saves, but you just felt that a little bit of a momentum shift as soon as Pierre-Luc Dubois drew the Jets even.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it was a huge goal for the Jets, and it's 2-2 early in the second period, and you press the big reset button on the game, and the Jets, quickly take the lead. Well, not quickly, but just over 10 minutes later, it's Blake Wheeler, his 5th of the year assist to Paul Stastny, and all of a sudden it's 3-2 for the Winnipeg Jets, and the barn is rocking, and the team, which was down 2-0 not that long ago, is really feeling good about themselves now, Ezzy.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that stood out to me was, aggressiveness in the second and third periods, because obviously the first period was not aggressive. And, clearly the Jets came out much stronger, in the second period. And we talked about, Tony Nato's goal had a huge, part in that. Stastny even mentioned that, talking to Sarah Orlesky during, the intermission. He said, that gave us a huge boost. So, I really liked how Stastny, he picks, it was Jamie Oleksiak, if I'm not mistaken. He takes the puck from him behind the net. And again, it's kind of, similar to Lowry's pass to Tony Nato. I mean, that pass is just tape to tape right to Blake Wheeler. And I like the patience from Blake Wheeler, because Philip Grubauer comes out of his net. And that's just a smart veteran shot, right? Just low in the corner there. So Stastny deserves a lot of credit. Scheifele and Wheeler have obviously been red hot, but that's just such a smart defensive play, even though it was in the offensive zone. That's, pickpocketing at its finest.
Well, and Stastny sets up Wheeler, but it does start with a strong forecheck by Mark Scheifele there, Dave, on that play, forcing the turnover behind the net. I'm surprised he doesn't end up getting an assist. I guess he didn't actually get his stick on it before it got onto Stastny's stick. But, that is what you want to see from Mark Scheifele, making an impact in the offensive zone with that hard forecheck, being very strong on his stick, and, having the puck skills to steal a puck and force a turnover there. And, it doesn't end up being the game-winning goal for the Jets, but boy, oh boy, is it a massive goal for the team to give them the first lead of the game.
No, and you're 100% right. I mean, like I said, when the second goal, the Pierre-Luc Dubois goal went in, you could feel the momentum churn. And then suddenly now you've got a 3-2 lead, and the building's excited, right? They're feeling good. Mason Appleton got his homecoming video, and that was a nice moment. But the crowd, you got to get these guys up. You got to get people excited again. People aren't used to it, so it was the momentum was back in their favor, because suddenly you're building something up, and the truth is, like I said, that Blake Wheeler, I think the stat was 11 points in his last 11 periods. I mean, that's
is that good? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. So, I mean, he's doing a lot to erase, the early season injury, the early season dealing with COVID, and now suddenly I'm not saying he's the Blake Wheeler of old, but he's looking a lot more true to form from what you've come to expect with Blake Wheeler. And look, there's going to be that line's not going to be defensively. It's not Patrice Bergeron on that line, as we saw with that second goal where Mark Scheifele bid hard on the fake drop. But the truth is, as we've talked about, if you can have the Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois line, you can have the Scheifele and Wheeler line, contributing. And as he said, if you're not going to get some secondary scoring from the Tonatos of the world, well, there you go. That's the recipe for success. Now the Jets were loose a little bit tonight. I mean, Eric Comrie had to come up with some big saves, so they're going to have to play better defensively. But it's the end of a back-to-back, and they've played 3 games in 5 days or something like that. So
3 and 4. They played Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. So 3 and 4. So it's been a lot of hockey in the last little bit. They'll have a day off tomorrow, then they'll be back in action against the Oilers in the afternoon on Saturday. But that's also why you had the opportunity. You knew you had a day off tomorrow. So you get a chance to throw everything you want at, Seattle, because as we've been talking about, these points are just so critical to add to your standings bank. And, you have a potential with, really Dallas, Anaheim, and San Jose. It looks like that's your competition because, I suspect the Oilers and Flames and Golden Knights are going to lock up those Pacific spots. Not necessarily the Oilers, but they seem like they're on a bit of a roll.
Well,
And
basically,
so
you have the Kings, the Ducks, and the Oilers, who are basically in a three-way tie for the final Pacific Division playoff spot and the second wild card spot right now. So, one of those three teams is guaranteed to get in that third Pacific spot. The question is, can the Jets or the Stars end up catching up to the other of the two teams for that final final wild card spot?
It's way too early to really identify the one team that the Jets are chasing. Like, I agree with you, Drew. Like, it's Anaheim and LA, right now, but like Edmonton's going to beat Anaheim tonight. So, obviously the Jets gain points on Anaheim, but they don't gain points on Edmonton, right? So you see how this is going to go for the rest of the season. So obviously the Jets can only take care of their own business. Dave's right. Like they have to win these games. We talked about it coming out of the All-Star break, right? Like, if they didn't, get the 1 point in Dallas and pick up the 2 points in Nashville, then that obviously would have been potentially crushing their dreams of getting into the playoffs, right? So that game against Nashville was huge. And this game, similar in the second game of a back-to-back. And, I saw Dave mention this either on his own account or the IC account, kind of similar, go down 2-0 and then similar result, right? Obviously it wasn't exactly the same, but, second game of a back-to-back, you're going to take it even if you go down 2 goals. It's the end result that matters. So I see a few people in the chat, making comments that, the Jets, had a little bit of trouble with Seattle, but look at the Kraken. They've beat Florida twice this year. Like, the Kraken are not a very good team. Like, and say whatever you want about Philip Grubauer. He was a Vezina finalist last year. He's not having a great year, but this Kraken team is not having a great year. So, you've still got guys like, Eberle, Jared McCann's having a nice season. Shout out to Morgan Geeky from Strathclair in the Yellowhead region for those who like their 10 regions. Shout out to Hockey Manitoba there. So yeah, they're not a good team, but the Jets found a way. Like, you could have gone down 2 or 3-0 after one. And the other save I wanted to mention, Dave, because I know Dave has watched Eric Comrie more than anybody really. Another save, we talked about the Riley Sheahan save, which is a nice save. I think it was Jordan Eberle. He got a piece of it, and then it went off the post, if you remember that one, in the second period. But that was a clear-cut chance. And then again in the third period, there was a 2-on-1, if you remember. Ryan Donato had the chance, and it just hit Comrie almost right in the stomach. But it was his positioning and the fact that he was aggressive and came out. So I thought Comrie made 4 or 5 really good saves. And yeah, the save percentage, that's kind of, a situation where the stats, I don't think, reflect how well he played, right? Because he didn't make 38 saves, and he doesn't end, the night with a 950 save percentage, but he made some key saves at key times. And for a guy that, Dave mentioned yesterday on the post-game show, hasn't played in a while, that's to give your team excellent goaltending. You might have let in 3, but he really was excellent tonight.
Well, look, I don't know what, if you look at Eric Comrie on the season now, this was his 8th game that he started for the Jets. He's 5-2-1 in those 8 games. I mean, if you had told people before the season started that you probably obviously want to get him more than just, 8 starts, he's probably going to end the year maybe 14, maybe 15, so not a huge amount of starts, but he's got a 916 save percentage. It went down a little bit tonight. It was 920 before the game started tonight, and his goals against is 2.41. So for a guy that was certainly the focus of a lot of angst, in the offseason, Eric Comrie has come in and he's certainly been steady. He's been what the Jets need in a backup goalie. You knew they were going to rely on Hellebuck more than to play the vast majority of games. But Eric Comrie has come in and he's won 5 out of the 8 games he started for the Jets team. Can't ask much more from a backup goalie's perspective. That ended the second period at that point in time with the Jets leading 3-2. The Wheeler goal coming at 11:54, and the final 20 minutes, you knew were going to be a key final 20 minutes for this Winnipeg Jets team, looking to sweep the back-to-back. And Eberle, after the first first 6-7 minutes of the third period, a lot of back and forth action, probably too loose, in terms of what you were saying there, Dave M. And Eberle ends up getting the Kraken back even with the Jets, his 14th of the year, assist to Marcus Johansson and Mark Giordano, and it's 3-3 with 13 minutes to go. And this is a case where Morrissey just sort of lost Eberle a little bit, and the puck goes across the blue paint, and a guy's standing a little bit on his own next to the post is usually going to be able to bang one in.
Yeah, we saw that last night when Mark Scheifele put one of those home for his hat-trick goal. It was basically the same thing. And yeah, Josh Morrissey lost his man and allowed Eberle to be beside the net. And look, Eberle scored a few goals in this league. He's not gonna miss that kind of opportunity. So, it had that feel, and it was interesting because, like I said, you're watching the game and you're thinking to yourself, the Jets had a few opportunities to extend their lead and they didn't. Grubauer made a couple of saves in that third period. So you're thinking that's giving Seattle opportunity, and Seattle's going to be a desperate team. I mean, and they're going to be. We've seen them play aggressive, right? So that's what they did. They took advantage of their opportunity, and yeah, they took advantage of a defensive lapse by the Winnipeg Jets, which allowed them to tie the game. So, the good news for the Jets is how they responded after that goal, and they didn't wilt, and they didn't allow the Kraken to take control of the game. But yeah, I mean, not ideal to like I said, there's definitely defensive areas that this team needs to work on and get better on because, as we talked about, Seattle isn't a good team and they're not a very good road team. And so sure it worked. And yeah, it's a lot, like I said, it's 3 games in 4 nights. That's a lot of hockey, but against the upper echelon teams, you can't afford to have those letdowns because Seattle did have a lot of grade A looks. Maybe not necessarily grade A chances because the guys didn't necessarily convert them into that, but they got a lot of good looks where guys were, coming right down Main Street unimpeded and shooting high on Comrie, like missing the net and shooting wide. So, there were some things that they need to clear up. And yeah, that like I said, that third goal was not one of those things that they'll look back and they'll say, okay, our coverage wasn't on where it needed to be for that goal.
Well, Dave, obviously you were at the game, so you wouldn't have heard it. And Ezzy, I don't know if you were watching the first intermission, but our buddy Craig Button was on with Sarah, as he often is. And he was very honest and blunt about some of the Jets' defensive breakdowns and how they're, the opposition.
Slot shots.
Yeah, slot shots. I mean, he showed using video. He showed, 2 passes and it ends up in a scoring chance from a high danger zone for the Kraken. And he was very clear. Look, this is not going to lead to success. You need to clean this up. That area in particular, the ease in which teams can get into the high danger zones against the Jets, if the Jets want to make a run and want to consider themselves a playoff, for a playoff spot. And even threw in the old Jim Mora playoffs soundbite a little bit because Craig was incredulous at just how easy sometimes the Jets are to play against, especially as it comes to the opposition gaining that's the slot shots, as like you said.
Well, and Seattle is pretty stingy as well defensively. Like, we've said it many times before, the Seattle team is not making the playoffs. They're not having a very good year. But with the veteran like Mark Giordano, won the Norris Trophy a few years back, Adam Larson, who we've talked about a little bit about this year, like the Oilers definitely miss him on the right side. Like we talked about Vince Dunn, who got the goal scoring, like Jamie Oleksiak, even though he was burned by Paul Stastny. I think it was Oleksiak, Dave. I might be wrong, but I thought it was Oleksiak that Stastny. I'm talking about the Wheeler goal. I think it was Stastny that stole the puck from Oleksiak. Well, I know it was Stastny. I wasn't sure if it was Oleksiak, but the point is, like, that was the strength when we were kind of analyzing the expansion draft. One thing, that Seattle, I think, got pretty right is the defense is pretty good. Like, it's not, top 5 or even top 10, but it's a respectable NHL, even like a Carson Soucy. Like, you can tell, like, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but, Minnesota's a good team and they're going to be a playoff team this year. But Dmitry Kulikov, Jordy Ben is your third pair. Like, I don't like, your chances. If those guys are your 7th or 8th defenseman, fine. So even a guy like Susie, is a solid defenseman. So, I liked, for the most part, the Jets game. But yeah, oftentimes, it's, I think maybe, a symptom of a team that likes to score in transition. Sometimes they're a little bit loose and you see a little bit too much space out there. But, I think at this point in the season, guys, that's kind of, what this team is. And I think, I've seen some comments, talking about, the Jekyll and Hyde nature of the team. And it kind of reminds you guys of, the team that lost in the first round to the Blues. What was that, 2019-20 or 2018-19? I forget. I might be getting my years wrong there, but it was kind of the same thing, right? Like the Jets were able to outscore their problems. And I think, you saw that a little bit against Nashville and, the goal explosion in the third period. And I think you saw it a little bit in the last couple of games, right? Like the Jets scored 11 goals in the last 2 games. And obviously, you got some empty netters in there. But the point is, like, for a team that, Drew has talked about this a lot, and I got to give you credit, the 5-on-5 goal scoring is the biggest issue in addition to some of the defensive breakdowns. But, you wonder, like, what is the better recipe for success here? Is it, winning the game 2-0 against the Wild, or is it beating the Wild 6-3? Like, I don't know, because the Jets, they can shut down an opposition, but, is it at the expense of goal scoring, I guess is what I'm saying.
It's I think it's probably 2-0, but it's an interesting discussion and probably one that we might have on this coming Saturday's Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. back here on our YouTube channel. For those of you who don't already know that, but I'm sure all of you know that, and I'm sure.
Come on, Drew! If it's Saturday, it's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
That's
Everybody,
right. Everybody's got it in there. They got it in
years.
They got it in their calendar. It's blocked off. It's marked off. Everybody knows when we're on Saturday mornings, but set a reminder anyways. I've seen a lot of questions, a lot of chat about the status of Cole Perfetti. Cole Perfetti took a hit at the right around the 8:40 mark of the third period, and he went to the bench, and then he left the bench and went down the tunnel after that hit. I think the hit was delivered by Alexiak, there's, by the way,
it was
a big size mismatch between Jamie Alexiak and Cole Perfetti. So he was not benched. I saw some people, speculating about that. Definitely wasn't benched. He was banged up. And so the status of his health for Saturday against the Oilers, I haven't seen Dave Lowry talk about that. I wouldn't expect to see him talk about it or say anything. And of course, Andrew Kopp not in the Jets lineup tonight after taking that hit on Wednesday by Jordan Greenway, which we said on the show was a dirty hit. And we said that, boy, oh boy, we don't want to play doctors, but an unsuspecting hit to the head, what word immediately comes to mind when that happens. So we'll have
and nothing from the Department of Player Safety, not even a fine. Very surprised by that.
I was surprised too. I thought it should have,
especially because the puck was nowhere near. Like I went back, someone asked me, Charles Shaw asked, who is often in the chat or follows the show, and he tweeted at me saying, what happened. So I actually went back because I did PVR, so I went back and I watched it again. Because actually, surprisingly, nobody actually had it online. I was a little surprised by that. So I went back and I watched it. And you know what? Yeah, it's a dirty hit. I mean, there's no real way. Like Greenway knows what he's doing. I mean, they said it on
by elbow.
Yeah, and they said it on the broadcast. They knew that he knew what he was doing, and he was pissed. And he maybe he wanted to give Andrew Kopp the birthday bumps because it was his birthday, not even though it wasn't Andrew Kopp's birthday, it was Jordan Greenway's birthday, but. Look, we didn't get an update from Dave Lowry. His comment today was he's being evaluated, which I took to mean he's probably not playing tonight. But of course, because he left it ambiguous, we had to wait till 5:30 for warm up.
Dave Lowry's getting into playoff mode, Dave.
Yeah, well, he's been in playoff mode since his first presser, I think. But 6:30 for the warm up skate, and of course, Andrew Kopp wasn't there, but Christian Vesalainen was. His opportunity to get back in. He was throwing some hits, I think. I heard one of the stats I think he was leading the way or something like that in terms of hits. So who knew Christian Vesalainen was a bruiser? But although he had a bit of a...
He led the Jets with 5 hits in tonight's game.
Okay, but he had a bit of an unfortunate situation where he was tripped up, which again, going to that comment about the reffing, he's got the puck, he's tripped and no call. But the problem was he wiped out pretty hard, hit his shoulder. So he was in considerable... That was towards the end of the second period. He was in quite a bit of pain on the bench, and they went to a commercial break. So I wasn't sure if they were showing him on the bench, during the TV broadcast. But I was watching him, and he came back for the third period, so obviously he was fine. But it's kind of a tough one when adding insult to injury kind of thing.
Yes, indeed. The Jets end up with the game-winning goal. It comes at the 13:50 mark of the third period.
Beauty.
Just beauty by Kyle Connor, just stupendous. He finds Josh Morrissey, who comes in and is pinching and playing an offensive role as a defenseman there, and it's a beauty shot by Josh Morrissey as well. I mean, there's no chance for Grubauer here. This is a just Kyle Connor at his absolute best. He gets all the attention for the goal scoring, but don't overlook his playmaking abilities as well. And he puts the puck on a tee for Morrissey. Morrissey makes no mistake, and the Jets end up with the game-winning goal. And they have to hold on for the final 6 minutes. And I thought they did a fine job in the final 6 minutes, really shutting things down and not giving the Kraken an opportunity. I don't really remember any great opportunities the Kraken had, particularly when the net was empty. They had trouble gaining the Jets zone when they pulled Grubauer, and Kyle Connor ends up getting rewarded for his nice play in setting up Morrissey with the 5-3 goal with 0.4 of a second on the clock. He tucks it in, and that gives DeMello his second assist of the game. What can you say about Kyle Connor?
Yeah, well, I mean, the curl in the zone was it's funny. I described him as silky smooth, to quote the Zohan, and he is. It really is. I mean, he just does things in tight that nobody else on this Jet team is even close to having that ability. Maybe Cole Perfetti, but not with the same speed that Kyle Connor can do it at. It's just amazing to watch. It really is a treat to I know we watch it with the different hat, but he really is a treat to watch. He's the kind of player that you pay money to watch play games because he's that exciting, and every time he's got the puck on his stick, you're thinking he's going to do something. And I've been saying that, Drew, for a long time, that he everybody looks at him and talks about his goal scoring ability, but his passing is world class. It really is. He's even Steven, really. His goals and assists really aren't that disproportionate for a guy who scores and gets he's recognized for all of his goal scoring, but his passing is just as good, just a little more unheralded. But yeah, that curl move, and then he feeds it over to Christian Reichel. Good on Christian Reichel. I mean, as he talked about him to start the show, I mean, he really has shown that he can he can be trusted. And he gets the bump up when Cole Perfetti goes down. He gets the bump up into that second spot, and he's a guy who is going to work his ass off every single shift. His skating isn't the best, but it's good enough, and he works hard. So he'll do what is necessary. He feeds the puck back to Kyle Connor, and like you just said, I mean, Kyle Connor sees Josh Morrissey, recognizes an opportunity, and the goaltender Grubauer has to be so concerned about Kyle Connor's shot that he can dish it off to Josh Morrissey, who's got a pretty damn good shot himself, and he gets his 6th goal of the year.
You're absolutely right. I mean, Christian Reichel, I thought this was probably, I thought, the best game that he played from start to finish. He was noticeable for the Winnipeg Jets for all the right reasons. And for the longest time, when Reichel had been in the lineup, I always sort of assumed he was just sort of a bit of a placeholder that, when the team is back at full strength or when they're completely healthy, he might be one of the odd men out. The more I've watched him, the more I think he's maybe beginning to establish himself as a guy the Jets can count on. And you always need those guys, the salary cap being what it is. You always need guys who are affordable, who can come up and play a role in your lineup, be it a third line role, be it a fourth line role. But you can see, Ezzy, the trust that Dave Lowry has for Christian Reichel. And, Christian Reichel certainly rewarded him for that trust throughout tonight's game.
Yeah, he's playing with his son on the third line. No, I mean, I'm joking, but, we know how many different, I would just guess here and say there have been 10 to 12 different players on that third line, and obviously Lowry is the one constant, right? So yeah, I mean, and even Drew, when Ehlers comes back and when Kopp comes back, even if he gets bumped down and say becomes the 13th forward or a healthy scratch, I mean, even if that happens and he goes back to the Moose, what he's accomplished here, with the Jets is very, good for a young player who was way down the depth chart, and now he's climbed all the way up the depth chart, and he's finding himself on the third line. So, Dave M should be talking about this, not me, but I mean, for a guy that, just has worked hard and, just continued to get better. And yeah, he's not flashy. He's not, he doesn't have, the skill or the speed of a Kyle Connor or a Nick Ehlers, but he's just a very smart player. And, he gets in on the forecheck. and just it just is a good hockey player. Like, he's just a reliable player. And, I'd like to see him on the fourth line if he gets bumped down in the lineup. Like, I think there is a spot for him in the top 12, but I mean, that's another conversation because, we don't know exactly when Kopp's coming back. And obviously Ehlers is a little bit away, but it's always good to have, depth players, and when we go back to, talking about Riley Nash, right? Like, Riley Nash's name hasn't been talked about a lot, right? But, the Jets definitely, I think, in the last, let's say, month or two, I mean, with the Austin Paganskis and, the Christian Reichels, I think we've seen players put into NHL roles and flourish. So I think that only bodes well, going into, the stretch drive of the season and hopefully into the playoffs, knowing that you have some really good players who aren't just going to be placeholders. They're not just going to play 5 or 6 minutes on the fourth line. They can play, pretty key roles. He was bumped up right when Perfetti went out with the injury.
Indeed, he was. Perfetti will get an update after these commercial messages about Dave Lowry. Had a comment about Perfetti, had a comment about Andrew Kopp and their status for Saturday's game against the Oilers. 41 minutes consecutive of post-game breakdown. It's time for us to have a little bit of a break. We'll be back. We have the Manuk Moose Minute. I think Dave's got some Moose tickets to give away, as he's got a Tough Duck Toque. Much more on the Jets and the Kraken. The Jets victorious tonight by a 5-3 margin. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. You're watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Manuk Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com. For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Ducks clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Thursday night, 10:20. Hope everyone's having a lovely evening and hunkering down for more snow, because that's what we all really wanted. Just haven't had quite enough of it. We're going to get another Arctic blast. Ezzy, you can get your shovel ready and start digging yourself a hole to climb into.
This has been the worst winter ever. Has it not? Like we've lived here our entire lives. And so we've seen, crappy winters. Last year was great. I mean, last year was mild. There wasn't a lot of snow. Mm-hmm. This year, there hasn't been a let up. It's just cold every day. And then there's like a random, nice day in the week, which actually is the worst, because usually that means that some of the snow melts and it's icy. I'll let you know how my winter is going in my house. I live in River Heights. It's an older house. By the way, I ran into Rick Ralph today down the street at Virtuti Mortgage. That was nice to catch up with Slick Rick. I might have just given away where I live, but that's okay. Come by anytime. Central River Heights for this guy. This is how my winter is going. In addition to the fact that there's 7 feet of snow in my backyard, earlier in the fall, Ruben pushed a heater and knocked out one of the windows in my sunroom. So snow gets into my sunroom. So first off, that kind of sucks. So we had to tape it up with that, whatever Naomi did it, because she's the handyman of the house. But now what
role do you exactly play in that house? That's really what I'm asking now.
I take out the garbage and recycling very well.
Okay,
I shovel.
That's once a week. Okay,
I'm really good. I'm really good at the laundry. I clean up after the kids after every meal. Really good at the dishes. I do a lot of domestic things, Drew. I mean, before I met Naomi, I wasn't even able to put on my own clothes properly. But now I can actually do a few things. But the most recent thing is, and again, mentioned, I have an old house, old garage. Now the garage door doesn't close because there's 2 inches of thick ice. So now I actually have to close my garage 3/4 of the way down, or it doesn't go down. So that's how my winter is going, and I don't think it's going very well.
Garage, ooh la la, Mr. Fancy Pants with your garage. You should call it a car hole. That's what Mo Sislak calls it. Calls it a car hole.
And it's detached to car hole. That's great.
And as he gets the milk, by the way.
And as he gets the milk.
By the way, Drew, I'm going to
I always have to get the milk.
Just before you give your update, because your update won't make sense based on something I said earlier. I was incorrect. I thought the Jets were off tomorrow. They are not off tomorrow. They are set to practice, which will explain why.
Optional?
Comment coming up. I don't know if it's an optional is, but there will be information coming from it, which is why Drew's about to say what he's about to say.
Exactly. What I'm about to say is that Dave Lowry said he expected to have a more definitive update on both Andrew Kopp and Cole Perfetti tomorrow. So the Jets will hear. Yes, exactly. So questionable, I guess, would be what you can probably call them for Saturday afternoon's contest against the Edmonton Oilers. Worth pointing out from the Oilers' perspective, I see on the Twitter machine that Jesse Puljujarvi has left this evening's game for the Oilers with a lower body injury. So you wonder what that means for his status for Saturday's game. Last I checked, Puljujarvi is not finished though for McDavid and Draisaitl. Unfortunately,
the 4th overall pick in 2016. By the way, awesome little piece during, I think it was the second intermission. It might have been the first intermission.
Was the first.
Caleb Snyder of the Jets was the one who produced that. Little trivia question. I coached him along with Richie in hockey when he was 13 for the Tuxedo Lightning A1. So shout out to Caleb.
There you go. And I'm shocked that his hockey career it took him off the ice after the stellar coaching that you and Richie provided.
He's a good hockey player.
Him. I'm sure he
was.
Like
a Brian Little type.
Don't doubt that at all. On the out-of-town scoreboard, because I know
his coach wasn't very good. But.
Yeah, but he's great at laundry and dishes, apparently. The Edmonton Oilers are up 7-3 on the Anaheim Ducks, so the Oilers will certainly win that game, what appears to be relatively handily. And in Vancouver, or in San Jose rather, the Canucks are off to an early 2-0 lead against the San Jose Sharks. So best case scenario for the Canucks is that they keep pace with the Jets. The Jets obviously ahead of them because having played fewer games, and the Oilers will move even further into third spot in the Pacific Division with their victory, and the Jets will be 3 points behind both the Kings and the Ducks for the final wild card spot. The Dallas Stars also between them. They're a point behind. The Jets and the Kings having played the same amount of games. The Stars have a game in hand on the Jets, and the Ducks have played 2 more games than both the Jets and the Kings. So there's your out-of-town scoreboard.
Boys, we are going to be sorry, Drew, I was just going to say we are going to be paying attention to that Pacific Division, the late night scores, more than we ever thought we were going to this year, because we know the Jets are not going to be grabbing, one of the central spots. So it's going to be a wild card spot. If it isn't, Dallas that they're chasing, it's most likely going to be those teams that you just mentioned: Kings, Ducks, Oilers.
We certainly hope that we're going to be paying attention, because I got to tell you, as we've talked about, I think previously, if this is a 4-1-1 stretch for the Jets, and that's certainly good, and that's certainly nice, and that's put them within shouting distance of the playoffs again. Because if this had been as poor as it was before the All-Star break, the next 6 weeks, the entire month of March, with 16 games, was going to be a very, very long month to have to get through. Never mind April. After that.
we would have literally killed each other on air, and that's how we thought the Illegal Curve Hockey Show was going to end. So it's good that the Jets have started came out of the gate 4-1-1.
Exactly. Ezzy, Tough Duck hardest hitting comment, courtesy of our good friends at Tough Duck.
Yeah, we're going to give it to Marco Almeida. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. I know I'm pronouncing the first name right, but Marco, seen him a lot over the years on Twitter, and he's often in the chat for the Illegal Curve post-game show. So shout out to Marco for joining us again tonight. You've got it up there. When your team plays in front of you with a purpose, all you need is confidence to stop the puck. Comrie looks focused and in his element, and I think he nails it there. And we talked about it, like Comrie obviously, didn't steal the game by any stretch, but, we talked about the Riley Sheahan chance in the first period. I mentioned the 2-on-1 Ryan Donato chance, which he made look like a very easy stop. So he made 3 or 4 key saves, when the Jets needed him to. And for a guy, talk to any goalie, anybody who analyzes goalies, when a guy hasn't played in a long time, it's tough for him. Goalies want to play games. So I think Comrie, deserves a lot of credit here. Obviously, the Jets got, the big game-winning goal from Morrissey, and Wheeler scored the big third goal. But I think Comrie deserves a lot of credit for this win and the way he played. So Marco, send me an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs. Send me your mailing address, and then Tough Duck will send you a toque. I stole your line, Drew.
It's true, you did. I'll let it go on this one time, but in this one time only. So congratulations to Marco, tonight's winner of the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Dave M, I believe you have some Moose tickets. Am I correct in saying that? You're on mute. I'm correct in saying that.
Hold on, I got to unmute myself. I got to figure out which game. I mean, the Moose have 9 straight home games coming up, so now I got to figure out which games we have tickets to. We're gonna actually probably have more tickets to give away. So tickets. We might even have something a little bit exciting. Oh, what's this? A Mikkel Burden bobblehead?
Wow.
Maybe we might even have a Mikkel Burden bobblehead. We know it's Mikkel Burden bobblehead giveaway. They did a quasi giveaway during the reduced capacity crowd, but they're doing the bobblehead for Mikkel Burden on Sunday. And then the Cole Petty bobblehead will be on, I believe, the following Sunday, if that's the 27th. So you can have Mikkel Burden's bobblehead, and then you can have Cole Perfetti's. Now, Cole Perfetti's bobblehead will not be within the realm of, he'll be like a lot of these guys don't actually end up playing in the same games because they're often up with the Jets. I mean, I would say at least, feels like 75% of guys who get a bobblehead end up not playing in the actual game where they've gotten a bobblehead. Like Nick Patan, Jack Roslovic, Mason Appleton, Cole Perfetti will most likely be in that list.
There was a Nick Patan bobblehead day?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, JC Lapon, you missed last year. There was a Dave Minuk and Daniel Fink bobblehead. We were like in the broadcast booth. But because nobody was in the building, it was just I was basically the only
You were just bobbing your head. You were just going back and forth like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
you were having a seizure is actually what was happening.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, they had some good medical people there. So,
Dave, what did the little kid think when you stole their bobblehead at the last Moose game?
Well, I was like, give me that, kid. I want that. I've got a bobblehead, and I want to have a Mikkel Burden bobblehead. And like I said, I may have an extra one if there's some people who collect bobbleheads and they want a Mikkel Burden one. I've already had someone tweet at me looking for a Cole Perfetti one in advance. I don't have my hands on those yet. Those may be coming soon too. So
that you're the Moose insider when people are asking you about future bobbleheads.
Well,
Dave has a closet full of bobbleheads, so we could give away bobbleheads for weeks.
It's true. I may have to adjust the background, throw some Moose bobbleheads there. But
you might even pull out an old Nolan Baumgartner bobblehead, Dave.
I don't have that one. I think you have that one actually, but
I think I do. I definitely have a Corey Schneider.
I was gonna say, if you do want a bobblehead, Moose on Sunday bobbleheads. I can't remember. I think the first 3,000 fans.
It's 3,000, I believe.
Is it 3,000?
There you go. So, yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. The first 3,000 fans will get a bobblehead on Sunday. They're taking on the Milwaukee Admirals. Let's talk about a little hockey.
Moose Dave, say bobblehead again.
Bobblehead. So the Moose have hit a bit of a slide.
Hang on.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Thank you.
Well, what's that, Drew?
I said thank you. Go ahead.
Drew, you should.
All right.
What's the Canadian TV Awards? I want to say, is it the Gemini Awards?
The Gemini.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. I think you should win a Gemini Award for that.
Well, it's actually it's a neck and neck battle between that and the Grid Park ad for best commercial on Canadian.
Illegal Curve's going to clean up at the Gemmies.
The Gemmies.
What the question is, what will we wear? The answer, of course, I see
Illegal
here.
Curve merchandise, no question.
Anywho, so the Moose are up against a Milwaukee team that has gained some position on Manitoba because Milwaukee is on I think they lost their last game, but they're 8-2-0 in their last 0-0. Sorry, because they are 0-0. Want to be proper, but they've been on a bit of a run, and the Moose have not. The Moose have hit a bit of a slide. The Moose did get Johnny Kovacevic back. He's been reassigned. I have to believe they're going to get David Gustafsson back for this homestand because he's back in a regular jersey. The Jets, as I talked about yesterday, they're not putting him back in the lineup with 2 periods of the game in the last 2 months. So they'll get him back to the Moose to get some games under his belt. That's a good one from Beer Leaguer. But he said, I want a bobblehead Chia Pet Ezzy where the plant grows as a beard. I like that. But the Moose definitely need to kind of get back on the right track. They've got Jeff Malott, who was thought to be joining them on the road, but he didn't end up doing that. And they'll get him back, I assume, for Sunday's game. That kicks off 3 straight against Milwaukee. And like I said, 9 total here in Winnipeg. So lots of Moose games coming up. And like Drew said, and it's true, I do have 4 tickets. I didn't actually look at which game it is, so I'm going to look as I do this. This is what happens on live TV.
We're a smooth operation here, folks.
Hell of an operation. So this is not for the Sunday game, the bobblehead game. You'll have to buy tickets to that unless I magically get tickets, which if I do, we will give away on Sunday.
No, Saturday.
Sorry, I meant Saturday, Sunday. Through these days are all the same.
I know.
Dave, are people able to buy tickets directly from you?
Dave's also a Ticketmaster outlet.
For the record, hold on. There's something as much as I love talking about the Moose, I do want to isolate this comment from Frosty Winnipeg, and I want to talk about it after I'm done this Moose spiel because I got a comment to make. So we've got 4 tickets to the Moose game on Monday, which is Louis Riel Day, I believe. So it's or Family Day. Is that what they call it now? I don't know.
They call it Louis Riel Day. Okay,
so Louis Riel Day. These are like really good seats right behind the glass. There's 4 of them. So send me an email. Let me know why you want to go to the game. Dave@illegalcurve.com or send me a DM. I see Dave. Let me know if you want to take your family, your friends, whatever.
It's superhero game as well. So there's going to be a collection of superheroes there on Monday.
That is always a fun little situation there. I believe they're actually getting ready to do their jerseys. They're going to see that won't be a specialty jersey game, but I think they're getting ready to do that reveal soon, which is always fun. The Moose do a really good job in that regard. But yeah, so I've got 4 tickets for the game on Monday. For anybody who wants to check out a ton of Jets draft picks on the back end, as well as obviously Mikkel Burden, who's definitely, I mean, it's funny, he's got his bobblehead, but he's been playing much better of late. So we'll see what happens with him and Arvid Holm and potentially David Gustafson and a few others. CJ Cease skated again. Some people are asking what's going on with CJ Cease. He skated today in a non-contact uniform, but that's the first time that I can recall that he skated. He was injured in that game against Detroit, so he hasn't played in some time. I think it was mid-January when they played Detroit. So he's back skating. He'll be a good addition if the Jets can get him, if the Moose can get him back, because, of course, taxi squad's gone. So even though it seems like there's still a lot of guys up with the Jets, you got Dylan Sandberg, who's injured, CJ Cease, who's injured, Gustafson, still on LTIR, but I would expect him to be sooner rather than later. Nathan Beaulieu, if he comes back, what are you going to do? You might have to make an adjustment, send someone down. I'm not saying Ville Heinola, but if he's not playing with the Jets, then you got to get him playing again. So you have the potential to see some really good players and a really good Moose team who, despite their recent slide, are battling it out for a good spot in the Calder Cup playoffs.
There you go. The Manuk Moose Minute as only Dave M can do. So send him an email, dave@illegalcurve.com or @ICDave if you want to be considered to go to the Monday Moose game. And again, I mentioned I'm planning on going to Sunday's Moose game with my family. So if you want to see me live and in person, kindly, if you're going to throw tomatoes at me, try to avoid my family. They do get a little offended when the splashback hits them, but I might be there on Sunday as well. That's it for this Thursday night edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show.
I could throw a tomato at you right now.
Yeah, you've thrown tomatoes at me many times. Who are you kidding? Nah. The Jets victorious tonight, 5-3 over the Seattle Kraken. We remind everybody Saturday morning is our next availability, if you will. That's 9 a.m. We'll be here on our YouTube channel. We'll get you set for Saturday afternoon's Jets and Oilers contest. Another in a litany of huge games for the Winnipeg Jets. Also get you set for Monday afternoon between the Jets and the Calgary Flames. Before we go, a big thank you to our sponsors, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and Grid Park. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, the Illegal Curve Postgame Show, and of course our website. Dave M, what's that website?
IllegalCurve.com.
There you go. I was expecting you to say it while you were on mute, so good job in unmuting yourself in that instance. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button on your way out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast. Tell a friend, tell a family member. The best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game and on Saturday mornings is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. For Dave Manuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Saturday at 9 a.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve postgame show.